You're listening to Humans Being Awful. This is a podcast about true crime, cults, scams, internet rabbit holes, and people being the absolute worst. If you're here, you probably already know that. Or maybe you're just awake. Either way, let's get into it. For our first episode, we're starting with a motel and a man in the ceiling. It's a story about surveillance, but not the government kind. More like one guy, a crawl space, and years of watching strangers through a fake vent. We'll talk about what happened, what didn't, and how this story fits into something bigger: voyeurism, privacy, spy tech, and the psychology of watching. The place itself wasn't special, just a roadside motel in Colorado. Cheap furniture, brown carpet, a vending machine in the hallway. But above one of the rooms was a secret crawl space, and inside it, someone was always listening, sometimes watching, sometimes both. Let's go back to 1969. Gerald Fuss, early 30s, married, no kids, buys a roadside motel just outside of Denver, Colorado. It was called the Manor House, 21 rooms, 2 floors, shaped like a big U. Nothing fancy. You'd only stop there if you were tired, broke, or just didn't care anymore. Before this, Fuss ran a little sporting goods store, sold baseball cards, signed memorabilia, that kind of thing. He called himself a collector, but what he really collected was people, or at least their privacy. He said he'd always been curious about how people behave, especially when they think no one's watching. Which is for this story starts to get uncomfortable, because that curiosity, it didn't stop at observation, it turned into something else. What grabbed his attention about the motel wasn't the layout or the business opportunity, it was the attic. A crawl space ran above every room, long, narrow, dusty, but connected, and it gave him an idea. He didn't want to renovate, he wanted to watch. So he quietly started modifying some of the rooms, cut holes in the attic floor, installed fake air vents, the kind that looked normal from inside but weren't hooked up to anything. From above, he could lay flat on a wooden board, stare through the slats, and see straight into the rooms. Beds, bathrooms, showers, everything. And he used it regularly. The worst part? He took notes. And not just a few scribbles, entire journals, hundreds of pages, handwritten, sometimes typed, labeled by date and room number. He documented arguments, makeups, hookups, breakdowns, and he called it research. He said he was studying human behavior, mostly sexual behavior, called himself a voyeuristic researcher, which is not a real thing, he made it up. He wasn't with a university, didn't publish anything, and of course there was no ethics board, no peer review, just him watching and writing, and some of it was a lot. In one 1977 entry, Fuss described a man choking a woman during a fight and said she stopped moving. The man left the next morning alone. Fuss didn't call the cops. There's no confirmed victim or no missing persons case, just a note in a journal. And he kept going. His wife Donna knew. She even helped install the vents. They said it was scientific and not personal, like putting ants under glass. And the worst part, they might have actually believed it. Then in 1980, Fuchs reached out to a journalist, Lee Telliers, big name, did profiles of Sinatra, mob bosses, DiMaggio. Fuchs wrote him a letter, said he was a retired voyeur, asked if he'd want to hear more. Talise flew to Colorado, met Fuchs, climbed into the attic, saw the vents, read the journals, even watched a couple through the slats briefly. And then he agreed not to write anything until Fuchs gave permission or died. And then nothing happened for decades. Fuchs sold the motel, bought it back later, and eventually moved on. The journals? He kept them. Then in 2016, out of nowhere, Talise published a piece in the New Yorker. It was called The Voyeur Motel. It laid everything out: the attic, the bench, the platform, the journals. Fuchs was in his 80s and ready to go public. People freaked out, and not just because it was creepy, though it definitely was. It was the tone. The calm way Fuchs described it, like he was presenting data, not just spying on people in the shower. And then the question started. The Washington Post found out Fuchs hadn't owned the motel for all the years he claimed. He sold it in 1980, didn't buy it back until 1988. That's an 8-year gap, which happened to include some of the most intense stuff in the journals. When asked about it, Fuchs said he still had attic access, which, let's be honest, doesn't help his case. Talise panicked and said he shouldn't have believed a word he said, but then he walked it back and said the book still had value. The book came out anyway, The Voyeur's Motel. Netflix also made a documentary and called it Voyeur. It followed both men, and Talise looked more uncomfortable by the day. Fuchs still called himself a researcher. Nobody got arrested, no lawsuits, no guest names. But the attic was real. The pens were real. The journals, real. But the timeline, the details, those were messy. Some of it lined up and some didn't. But watching happened. Fuss spied on motel guests for more than a decade, maybe longer. And in the end, he gave interviews, sold books, got a documentary deal, and walked out with a lot of cash. Because apparently, I did it for science was enough. That's what stuck with people. Not just the invasion, but how long it lasted, how easy it was, and how he got away with it. Gerald Fuchs called his attic the observation platform and thought of it like a lab, a place to study people from a distance. But that was back in the 70s. These days, you don't need a crawl space, just a power outlet, a Wi Fi signal, and a camera that looks like something else. And the worst part? It's not rare. This is happening in rentals, hotels, guest houses, and even public toilets, and not in theory, in actual documented cases. In 2019, a couple books an Airbnb in Cork, Ireland. They're traveling with their baby. They put the baby down for a nap, start unpacking, and then they notice something off: a weird little light blinking on the smoke detector above the bed. They shine a flashlight at it, and the light bounces back. Not plastic, but glass, a lens. Turns out it's a hidden camera. And worse, it's live streaming, not to the host's laptop, to a public site so anyone can watch. They contact Airbnb. Airbnb goes quiet, then confused, then removes the listing. The host is banned, the guests leave. But the footage, nobody knows where it went or how long it was up. In 2021, another Airbnb in Miami Beach. This one is run by a local landlord with 5 properties. A group of friends checks in for the weekend. They're there to chill, hang out, maybe use the hot tub. Miami shit. Instead, they find a camera inside a light fixture, pointing straight at the bathroom. Cops show up, they find more cameras in his other listings. He gets arrested, charged with voyeurism, but it barely hit the news. The listing already gone. This one's huge. 2019, South Korea, a full surveillance ring, 30 men over 1,600 hotel rooms. They hide cameras in hairdryer holders, outlets, ceiling fixtures, cable boxes. Everywhere you can imagine had a camera hidden inside. The footage is live streamed to a paywalled website. Users subscribe to watch. This goes on for 10 months. More than 4,000 guests are recorded. When police finally shut it down, most of the people involved get small fines or suspended sentences. The site disappears, but the videos are still out there. Yet another Airbnb, this time in Canada in 2022. A woman notices a tiny blinking light in a phone charger. It's weird. The blink's too small, too irregular. She opens it up. Inside, circuit boards, memory card, and a hidden lens. Another camera pointed at the bed. The police got involved. Turns out it had recorded multiple guests before her, but nobody had noticed and nobody reported it. Airbnb gives her a refund and offers counseling. That's it. And these are just the ones that got caught. Most people never notice the cameras. They check out, leave the hotel, and never know they were watched. The ones who do catch something, it's usually because they had a weird gut feeling. Something didn't feel right, or they heard a noise, a misplaced device, or they saw a blinking light. Now there are Reddit threads or Facebook groups, even YouTube tutorials on how to spot hidden cams. And none of that exists because this is rare. It exists because it's common enough that people are crowdsourcing survival tips. But this isn't a niche problem anymore. This doesn't just happen at sketchy hostels or one-star motels. Some of these properties had 5 stars, professionally managed, superhost, verified, polished. That's the part nobody likes to say out loud. There's no type of host who does this. Sometimes it's the guy with no reviews. Sometimes it's a landlord with multiple listings. Sometimes it's a property manager with master access. And the guests? Not always influencers or young couples. They're families, solo travelers, retired people, business people. Surveillance doesn't discriminate. Neither do 5-star reviews. So, why does this keep happening? Some of it is tech. Cameras are cheap, tiny, and they're everywhere. But most of it is culture. These stories break. People panic, and then it's gone. The listing vanishes and the host gets banned. And the footage, nobody follows up. Even when it's a clear crime, prosecution is rare. It's treated like a creepy one off, not a pattern. No policy changes, no tracking, no real prevention. Just another disturbing post to scroll past at 2 a.m. And people keep buying the cameras. If you can find them anywhere, they are labeled as nanny cams or home security tools. But the product photos, they show hotel beds and bathrooms. The language is vague, but the message is clear. Watch, record, don't get caught. We'll get into the gear in a minute, but let's be blunt. This isn't a French issue. It's a business. And for some people, it's a hobby. What first did in the attic, other people are doing now with a shopping cart and a fake smoke detector. We've all seen the setups in those creepy stories. A smoke detector angled towards the bed, a towel hook in the bathroom, a clock radio with a little lens where the snooze button should be. But the real question isn't how they do it, it's who is doing it. Who's actually watching you through those fake devices and what are they hoping to see? The truth is, most people never find out. Even when a camera is found, the person behind it is usually long gone, or anonymous, or discreetly refunded. So let's talk about the kinds of people who do this. Not hypotheticals, real patterns, real cases. First up, the opportunist, the most common type, the beginners. This isn't some Hollywood villain. It's usually just someone with access and zero boundaries. Short term rental hosts, roommates, landlords, maintenance workers, sometimes even partners. They put in a camera because they can, because the tech is cheap, easy, and discreet. No hacking required, just Amazon Prime and poor judgment. The motive, basic voyeurism, curiosity, gratification, a sense of control. A lot of them don't even think it through. They just want to see and do. Some even tell themselves it's a kind of experiment, because of course science always involves hiding a GoPro in someone's toilet. In 2022, a New York landlord was caught hiding cameras in a bathroom he rented to 2 women. He was in his 50s, married, no criminal history, kept thousands of images on multiple drives. There was no evidence he ever shared them. He just kept them. Then there's the next level, the ones who don't just watch, they upload. Hidden camera porn is its own category online. Most sites say they ban it, but search wrong on purpose. It's everywhere. Titles like Spy Camp Hotel Room or Caught Girlfriend Changing. The videos are grainy, fixed angle, unedited, and very non consensual. Some are filmed by partners, others just strangers watching through vents. They upload anonymously, use VPNs, offshore servers, and the content spreads. A 2021 study looked at 1,000 amateur videos from major porn platforms. They found that almost 15% were likely filmed without consent. The comments? Even worse. People knew and didn't care. We also have the collectors. This group got real fuzz energy. They don't post it, they don't sell it, they just archive it, label it, sort it, they treat it like data. They'll even keep journals, date, time, location, and what they exactly saw. It sounds official, but it's just organized voyeurism. Labeling your footage doesn't make it ethical, it just makes it easier to sort. In 2017, a man in Chicago was arrested for hiding cameras in university restrooms. He wasn't a student, didn't know anyone there. He just wanted to watch. He kept hours of footage neatly sorted into folders, told the police he was interested in behavior, like it was a thesis. And of course, we also have those with a fetish. Some people are into the act of watching itself, not sex, not nudity. The thrill is not being seen. It's the secrecy, the power, the violation. Voyeurism as a fetish isn't new, but tech made it easier. You don't have to pick through blinds anymore. Now you just buy a charger with a camera in it. Entire online groups are dedicated to this. Reddit threads, Discord servers, encrypted chats. They swap gear, share footage, brag about not being caught. They don't meet in person, they just normalize each other. Now we get into the high level stuff, the institutional voyeurs, not hobbyists, but professionals. We're talking hotels, cruise ships, law enforcement, even spy agencies. In 2015, a five-star hotel in Tokyo got sued for secretly recording guests in luxury suites. They said it was for security. They didn't tell anyone. Another one. In 2023, a luxury resort in Mexico was accused of watching staff and guests with hidden cams to catch people breaking rules, to log behavior. There's also credible reporting that short term rentals are used by state actors, surveillance of targeting diplomats, journalists, CEOs, sometimes for intel, sometimes for blackmail. And you won't know it's happening until it leaks. So, what do they all have in common? It's not always about sex. Sometimes it's about power, sometimes curiosity, sometimes because they can. And the big thing? Access. Access to space, access to tools, and the belief that no one is watching them. Now that we know who's watching and why, let's talk about how to tell when it's happening to you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't realize they're being watched until after it happens. There's no beeping, no red light, no pop up that says, smile, you're live. The tech is small, cheap, and good at pretending to be something else. So instead of why they do it or who does it, let's focus on the how. How would you know before it's too late? First of all, know what you're dealing with. Hidden cameras are designed to blend in and pass the regular stuff. USB chargers, smoke detectors, clock radios, air purifiers, even picture frames. They all exist and they all sell. They all record, some stream live and some store footage. Most are under $50 and they don't require any tech skills, just plug and play. And they are almost pointed at the bed, the shower, or the hold down room. Then start with the layout. You don't need to do a full CIA sweep. Just look around with one question in mind. what's got the best view. Think like a camera. What's aimed at the bed, the bathroom? What seems oddly placed? And think if your alarm clock has a better view of the bed than you do, ask yourself why. Among some of the things people have found, there's outlets with no cords, alarm clocks that don't light up, smoke detectors with tiny black lenses, vents that look newer than the others. If it doesn't serve a purpose and it's aimed at your body, start there. You can also use your phone's flashlight. Camera lenses reflect differently than plastic. Shine your phone's flashlight directly at suspicious spots. Sometimes a lens will catch the light just for a second. It doesn't work every time, but it's helped people catch shampoo bottles, ceiling vents, fake speakers. Imagine this, you came in for a hot shower, you stayed for the hidden live stream. Another helpful tip, if you're tech savvy, is to check the Wi Fi. If you're connected to the rental's Wi Fi, run a device scan. Apps like Fang or Net Analyzer show everything on the network. Look for unknown devices, things labeled IP cam or webcam, or any brands that you don't recognize. Some will be harmless, but if you're seeing three mystery devices and there's only one TV, that's a red flag. And of course, when in doubt, unplug the clock, unplug any device that does not belong to you. Some people go as far as to check for night vision. A lot of hidden cams use infrared to see in the dark. You can't see it, but some phone cameras can. Here's how. Turn off all of the lights, then open your phone's front facing camera. Not all rear cameras work. Slowly scan the room and look for any tiny red or purple glows. Those dots could be infrared sensors, especially if they come from a smoke detector or a random gadget. In the best case, it's a motion sensor. Worst case, someone's watching you on OnlyFans. But seriously, just listen to your gut. Seriously. Most people who find a camera say they just felt something was off. Weird vibes, a sense someone was watching, having a weird feeling about some furniture, an urge to check that one vent again. Don't ignore it. Your brain is good at picking up things your conscious mind hasn't picked up on yet. That power adapted that doesn't plug to anything, that red light that never blinks, you're not paranoid, you're just paying attention. Now, let's say you actually find something. Don't panic, don't touch it, and don't rip it out immediately. You take photos and you report it. You pack up your stuff and leave before anyone shows up to ask why the smoke detector is unplugged. Then what? You'd hope there's a clear process, that what happened to you has a name, a penalty, a paper trail, that someone is held accountable. But here's the thing about voyeurism laws, they are a mess. They change depending on what state you're in, which country, what kind of building, even which body part got recorded. No, really. Some places break it down that far. And if the footage doesn't meet the right threshold of invasiveness, the person who filmed you will walk free. In the US, for example, voyeurism is mostly a state level crime. That means there's no one federal rule, just 50 different interpretations of what counts. Some states say it's illegal to record someone without consent in a private place. Others say it only counts if there's nudity or expectation of privacy or intent to arouse. If none of those boxes are checked, it's disturbing, but not necessarily illegal. You might feel violated, but if your pants were on, the law doesn't care. In some states, filming someone in a hotel is clearly against the law. In others, only bathrooms and changing rooms are protected. So if you're in the bedroom, it gets murky. Airbnbs? Even murkier. What are they? Are they homes, business, somewhere in between? Most laws were written before that could even be a question. Here's where it gets weird. What if the camera wasn't hidden to begin with? If the camera is visible, even if it looks like a smoke detector, some states say it's not hidden. Even if you didn't know it was a camera, even if it was pointed at your bed, intent matters too. If the person says it was for security and there's no sexual content, the case gets harder to prove. And if there's no audio, some states treat it as a lower tier offense. And what about short term rentals? Believe it or not, Airbnb has rules. Hosts have to disclose cameras. They're banned from putting them in private spaces, bedrooms, bathrooms. But enforcement? It's spotty at best. No one checks ahead of time. If someone reports it, Airbnb usually removes the listing, offers a refund, and moves on. Some hosts released under a new name, some never get reported. If you call the police, they might call it a civil issue. If you sue, you need to prove actual harm, not just the feeling of violation. Unless the footage was shared or monetized, most courts won't treat it like a serious crime. We just spoke about the US, but what outside of it? It's the same mess, different laws. In the UK, it's a criminal offense to record someone in a private space without consent. In Canada, voyeurism became a crime in 2005. But prosecutors still need to prove expectation of privacy and intent. In South Korea, they coined the term mulka for the epidemic of hidden camera crimes. Thousands of cases every year, huge protests, tougher laws, but most sentences? Fines, suspended time. In many countries, there's still no laws, or laws that only apply if the footage is sold or only protect children. So, what can you actually do? Short answer is not much, at least not easily. You can file a report, push the platform to investigate, maybe sue if you got the time, money, and proof. If the footage gets uploaded, then it gets more serious. You might be able to claim non consensual porn, defamation, or invasion of privacy. But if it doesn't go online, if no one finds it, if the camera wasn't technically hidden, then it becomes a story, an experience, something you warn your friends about next time they check in. And that's the problem. The tech moves faster than the laws. The motives are vague, and the system protects platforms more than people. As long as the burden to notice, prove, and pursue is on the victim, most of the cases don't end with justice. They just end. But the good news is you can leave a review, and the bad news, the footage lasts forever. I was just talking about how the law doesn't always have your back. And it turns out the camera in the smoke detector might be creepy, but not necessarily illegal. And that's not an accident. Because someone's making those cameras, someone's selling them, shipping them, building little apps so you can watch from your phone. It's not just a few weirdos in a basement, it's an industry. You don't need to go digging through the dark web. Just search nanny cam on Amazon. Thousands of results, most of them disguised. Alarm clocks, USB chargers, Bluetooth speakers. It needs to look like stuff that belongs in the room. Some are under $50. Many have night vision. A lot of them stream to your phone. The product descriptions, all about peace of mind. Protect your home, watch your pets, keep an eye on grandma. And yet somehow the example photos are almost always bedrooms. A made bed, a person sleeping, a shot angled at a changing area. They know how these cameras get used. They just don't say it out loud. You know, peace of mind and the occasional creepy live stream. And who's selling this stuff? Usually not big name brands. Most sellers use names like Safe Tech Store, Home Secure Zone. Sometimes it's dropshippers, sometimes it's barely a business. The gear mostly comes from one place, Shenzhen. Same factories that make earbuds, routers, baby monitors. One major player? Shenzhen Lightspeed Technology. They sell hidden cameras disguised as smoke detectors, wall chargers, desk clocks. Another? Kin Digital. They offer camera hooks, fake power strips, fake weather stations. You name it, they sell it. Some of their listings even advertise monitoring Airbnb spaces, which is bold. These devices get sold in bulk, relisted in Amazon, Temu, AliExpress, or rebranded as smart home security. And it's not just those who sell them. There's also affiliate hassles and passive income involved. Even if you're not selling them yourself, you can still profit. Most of these companies offer affiliate programs. Write a blog, film a YouTube review, link the gear. If someone buys it, you get a cut. So those top 10 nanny cams articles, They are often sponsored content, not safety tips, not warnings, just passive income with a side of plausible deniability. You're not paranoid, it's just good CEO. These cameras, they're not considered restricted tech. They're not encrypted, not regulated like weapons, not banned. Legally, it's not the device that matters, it's your intentions, which means you can buy it, own it. You're just not supposed to use it badly. The problem is nobody knows you're using it badly unless they catch you. Even if someone reports a listing, maybe Amazon removes it, maybe Walmart does too. But the same camera usually pops back up a week later with a new name. No fines, no bans, no consequences. Most people never find the cameras. But think about this for a moment. If you sell one to 100 customers and only one complaint, that's 99 easy sales. The risk doesn't go to the manufacturer or the seller or the blogger who promoted it. It goes to the person who installs it, and only if they get caught. Everyone else just keeps cashing in. And that's the real trick. This industry doesn't hide what it's doing. It just looks boring. It's not some shadowy criminal ring. It's just e-commerce. Shopify stores, drop shipping, Chinese logistics, affiliate links. It's Amazon listings next to baby monitors and smoke alarms. It feels normal, and that's what makes it dangerous. As it turns out, you don't need to break the law to make people feel violated. You just need a storefront. So we've talked about who does it and how they do it and how easy it is to get away with it. But what about the why? What kind of person buys a hidden camera, installs it in a vent, and waits? It's quite tempting to imagine a stereotype. Some creeper in a hoodie, the perv, the weirdo, the guy in the basement. But that image doesn't cover it. There's no single profile, no one explanation that makes it all make sense. Still, there are patterns. Some people do it because they are scared of betrayal, of being cheated on, of losing control. They tell themselves it's not about power, it's about protection. I'm just making sure she's not bringing someone over, or I need proof just in case. Or if they're not doing anything wrong, what's the problem? Once they convince themselves it's justified, it doesn't feel creepy, just necessary. Buy the gear, install the app, keep quiet. It's not about watching, it's about knowing. Some do it just because they can. They're curious, bored, petty, selfish, not necessarily dangerous, just careless with other people's privacy. Those are the why not people. I wanted to see if anyone would notice. It was just a prank. I thought it would be funny. Sometimes they're trying to impress someone. Sometimes they're just testing boundaries. It's not always about the footage, it's about the power. The worst part is half of them don't even care what they see. They just like knowing they're not supposed to see it. But yes, some get off on it. They collect, watch, save clips, they go back for more. It's voyeurism in the traditional sense, but now it is scalable, digitized, organized, streamlined. The clip in the attic has been replaced by an ad notification. And even then, some of them don't see themselves as voyeurs. They're just someone who set up a camera. The line between surveillance and sharing got blurry somewhere between TikTok and Ring doorbells. When everything is recordable, watching starts to feel normal, expected. Then there's the part that no one wants to think about. Some people do it because this is their job. Private investigators, corporate security, even law enforcement. Surveillance is a profession in a lot of places, and not all of it stays above board. Same devices, methods, same apps, just with an invoice attached. At the end of the day, the difference between a felony and a service fee is paperwork. They are hired to watch, they just don't always stop at what's legal. Here's the better question. Not why they do it, but why they feel like they can. And you don't need to think much to find the answers. Because the gear exists. Because it's cheap. Because the odds of getting caught are low. Because they've seen other people get away with it. Every unreported camera, it's a signal. Every case dismissed, reinforcement. Every removed listing that pops back up again under a new name, an invitation. We've normalized surveillance so much that it takes a crime to make it feel wrong. There's no one kind of person who does this, but there is one kind of system that lets it keep happening. And that's the part that matters. Because whoever put that camera in your room, they might be a creep, a control freak, a voyeur, but they're also something else. They are a customer. And this whole system, it was built for them. So, yeah, that's the episode. Not exactly horror movie scary, but still pretty hard to shake. This kind of violation is not dramatic or loud, it does not leave bruises. It's just silent and boring, easy to overlook. And most of the time, people do. They don't find the camera, they don't ask questions, they just trust the space they're in and go to sleep. But sometimes someone notices. They unplug something. They look twice at the smoke detector. They catch the lens. It's barely, but they do. And suddenly the whole trip feels different. Then they report it, and maybe nothing happens. Maybe they get a refund. Maybe the listing disappears. And maybe the same camera ends up in the next gets footage folder. Same bent, different face, just another day in the archive. Because the system doesn't really punish this. It just rotates the story, swaps out the names, washes the listings, starts over. So if you're feeling a little unsettled, good. That's not paranoia, that's pattern recognition. You're not supposed to constantly check your surroundings. You just live in a world that makes you have to. Anyway, that's it for tonight. If this episode stuck with you, or maybe made you check your ceiling once or twice, consider liking, subscribing, or following the show. Maybe even leave a comment. Says this is the first episode. Yeah, that stuff helps. We'll be back soon with another story. Real people doing real damage. Thanks for listening.